According to Young and the Restless teasers, Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, and Victor Newman, Eric Braden, will try to collect soil between the 2 weeks of August 23–September 3. Will they learn anything about Richard Burke's character Ashland Locke? The audience is aware of Tara Locke's, Elizabeth Lanner, dubious character. Does Ashland on the CBS soap opera have any dark secrets of his own? Additionally, Sean Kerrigan's character Dr. Ben Stitch Rayburn provides a hint regarding the kidnapper of Maria Copeland, Cameron Grimes. Is he attempting to confuse everyone, or is he being helpful? Nick Newman has doubts about the fiancé of his sister. He believes that Ashland Locke is more complex than first appears. They start working when Victor Newman gives his approval. Neither man wants to witness the harm done to Amelia Heinel's character, Victoria Newman. According to Young and the Restless spoilers, Victor puts in extra effort with his son to make sure the tycoon's past is clean. Given that Victoria is now organizing her wedding, time is of the essence. She has selected an October date. Therefore, if Victor Newman and Nick discover anything that would prevent the wedding, they need to act fast. Victor instructs his security staff to start delving further into the Loch Ness Monster's history the next week. Nick is working on Young and the Restless from his own perspective in the meantime. Ashland will be affected in every way. Jason Thompson's character Billy Abbott has doubts about the businessman's involvement with Nick Newman. Billy Boy feels that if his ex-wife proceeds with the wedding, it will be the worst decision of her life. Although he seems to be concerned about his kids, his actions on Young and the Restless are tinged with jealousy. Will Nick or Victor find out something? Ben Rayburn's return to Genoa City appears to be tied to developments in the missing Maria plot. According to Young and the Restless spoilers, he went straight to Abby's, Melissa Ordway, residence and found that the redhead was officially missing. Stitch comforts Abby by embracing her tightly. Ben provides a piece of evidence that can lead to the identification of a suspect in Maria's disappearance when she gives the document all the information. He sees the protein bar that the surrogate like. Then, on Young and the Restless, Stitch says he witnessed a man purchasing numerous bars of the same type at a convenience store. Is this a true clue then? Or is he attempting to conceal the fact that he is the real abductor? Maria begins experiencing what appear to be labor pains, according to Young and the Restless updates. However, she is saved before things worsen. Nonetheless, a number of criteria suggest that authors might not immediately identify the offender. So, when the story about who stole Maria and why becomes more complex, remain watching. On Guy and R. Ash has a lot going on in his life at the moment. He recently got engaged and combined his business with that of his fiancée. His son was likewise moved to live on a different continent by the New Yorker. The most significant development, though, is that he started lung cancer treatment. He appeared to do well in his first session. However, recent spoilers for Young and the Restless indicate that he will experience a setback. Will it be a personal or professional matter? The big wedding is set to take place shortly. But everyone in the community is investigating Ashland's past in an attempt to uncover some dirt. Victor, Nick, and Billy are all on the case. Will his new romance blow up then? Or will the tough businessman find the adverse effects of the treatment too much? Throughout the 2 weeks from August 23 to September 3, keep an eye on Young and the Restless to see what challenges Ashland will encounter as the entire community strives for his demise. As Nick and Victor Newman try to save Victoria before it's too late, the next 2 weeks should be exciting. And on the CBS daytime drama, Stitch keeps viewers guessing. The next 2 weeks in Genoa City are shaping up to be some of the most tumultuous the Newman family has faced in years. Ashland Locke is the target of Victor Newman's unrelenting quest for justice and retribution. But he's not going into battle by himself this time. Nick Newman is returning to the battlefield with his father, motivated by a combination of remorse, rage, and a need to defend his family. Together, they are planning to dismantle Ashland once and for all. The issue still stands, though, as long-buried truths threaten to explode. Alliances change, and secrets come to light. Will Victor and Nick eventually find success, or are they falling into a trap set by the master manipulator himself? Everything will be decided during the following 2 weeks. Week 1. The calm before the ambush in the Newman world. Things start out calmly. Even in his most composed moments, Victor Newman exudes a sense of tension that alerts everyone to impending events. His main goal this time is to expose Ashland Locke's most recent deception. Victor isn't buying a word that Ashland has tried to repair his reputation, wooed his way back into Newman Enterprises, and portray himself as a changed man. Victor actually thinks Ashland has one more game planned, a last-ditch effort to take back a place at the table. What is Ashland waiting for, one could wonder. Despite all of their past arguments, Nick is drawn back into the conflict with Victor. The scars Ashland left behind, falsifying his sickness, controlling Victoria, breaking into Newman Media, and trying to destroy the family, remain blazing. And Nick is ready to strike. But hitting needs information, planning, and a level of patience neither Newman is known for. Fortunately, Victor has gathered a small team of covert detectives. He introduces Nick to the inner group and discloses that Ashland's financial history has been remarkably clean. Too clean. Without assistance, no one with Ashland's past can become that invisible. Victor believes that someone is either hiding Ashland's identity or laundering his money. Answers will be available in the next 2 weeks. Nick steps into Ashland's shadow. Nick starts his portion of the task by going back to Ashland's known associates, including former rivals, business associates, and foes who had previously attempted to reveal Ashland's machinations. Most of them are afraid of reprisals and won't speak. However, a worried tech specialist with connections to Ashland's prior empire, a former associate, gives Nick an unexpected hint. Ashland never works alone. He is planning if he is silent. Nick required this line. And if he's planning, someone is already helping him. Ashland is receiving assistance from someone in Genoa City. Someone with resources, influence, or access. The first significant break in Victor's composed facade appears when Nick relays this information to him. Victor's suspicion turns to a known suspect. Someone who has a track record of siding with Ashland or downplaying his previous transgressions. However, Victor tells Nick not to approach anyone by himself before naming a suspect. They follow Victor's instructions this time. Ashland makes his first move. Ashland is plotting while the Newmans are investigating. In private conversations, the reformed villain act disappears. He meets with unidentified people in remote locations, makes late-night phone calls, and gets dark-coded messages. He is getting ready for something enormous. Ashland discusses timelines, final steps, and unresolved business in these sequences, and it is obvious that the person on the other end of the line has close ties. Ashland is becoming more self-assured, and unless someone intervenes, his return to power is certain. What makes Ashland particularly dangerous is his predictability coupled with unpredictability. He always has lofty goals in mind, but he conceals them beneath well-crafted lies. Victor is afraid of that unpredictability. Caught in the crossfire, Victoria feels the storm building all around her. She had tried to move past the Ashland chapter of her life, refusing to allow his tactics drag her backward. She is re-establishing both her personal and professional identities. However, the tension between Victor and Nick, as well as Ashland's impending threat, drag her back into the vortex from which she had intended to escape. Victoria cautions her brother and father against making choices without consulting her. After all, Ashland's deceit had the greatest impact on her. She is worthy of a place at the table. But Victor, protective and unyielding, keeps key details secret from her. He says it's to keep her safe, but in reality, he worries that her emotional attachment to Ashland would impair her judgment. This is not something Victoria takes lightly. After conducting her own research, she comes to the startling conclusion that Ashland has been frequently spotted in areas of the town that he previously used as safe havens for his business dealings. Victoria is the first to recognize Ashland's next act isn't revenge. Resurrection is what it is. He wants to regain all of the things he lost, beginning with influence, wealth, and power. The Newman men close in Victor and Nick compile their findings as the first week draws to a close. They spot a trend in Ashland's recent actions, one that is linked to shell corporations, offshore accounts, and a hitherto unidentified investor who seems to be transferring funds straight to Ashland. The name on those documents sends shockwaves through the Newman family. Victoria's old acquaintance, An executive with a lengthy history of corporate espionage and a past attempt to undermine Newman Enterprises, is Ashland's financial ghost partner. Ashland has been establishing an empire with support from one of Victor's oldest rivals. And now, Victor is enraged. He wants Ashland put down, and this time, he wants him taken down so severely he can never rise again. Week 2. The war escalates. Victor enters full war mode at the start of the second week. He directs his investigators to delve deeper, identify Ashland's physical hideouts, and intercept any incoming financial transactions. Nick works side by side with him, using his Newman media connections to identify digital trails and collect intel. Together, they identify 3 potential sites for Ashland's covered operations. This becomes the beginning of a full-scale Newman offensive. Ashland tightens his hold. Ashland also feels the storm approaching. His informants warn him that Victor is closing in. Ashland grows more nervous, snapping at his invisible colleagues and insisting on quicker outcomes. His discussions disclose something that none of the Newmans have yet to learn. Ashland is preparing a takeover that might completely upset the Newman empire or cripple Newman media. The Newmans are unaware, however, that Ashland has been surreptitiously enlisting allies. A few are former business associates of his. A few are recent additions. Additionally, one person in particular seemed to be emotionally invested in his return. This unidentified ally assures Ashland that Victor Newman won't anticipate the last blow. Nick makes a risky find. Nick chooses to conduct an unaccompanied search of one of Ashland's alleged safe houses, since he cannot leave his father to bear the burden alone. The setting is a deserted industrial area on the outskirts of Genoa City. It's eerie, cold, and quiet. Nick discovers a wall covered in Newman family-connected dots, pictures, encrypted files, and a pile of documents detailing Ashland's covert meetings. Nick detects footsteps before he can get away. There's another person inside. Nick barely escapes before Ashland finds him, but what he hears confirms the worst. Ashland is just a few days away from making a move that will rock the Newman world. Nick hides and watches as Ashland himself enters the room, arguing with someone on the phone about the window closing and the Newmans finding out too soon. Victor gets ready for his last attack. Nick comes back to the ranch, gasping and trembling, telling everyone what he saw. After analyzing the data, Victor concludes that subtlety is no longer necessary. Before Ashland can carry out his scheme, he intends to ambush him with proof, corner him in public, and reveal his lies. Victor, however, also understands that Ashland is not the true danger. Someone with money, power, and a personal grudge against the Newmans is the one assisting him. Victor promises to find this traitor. Victoria takes charge while Nick and Victor are taking risks. Victoria is tired of being ignored. She confronts Ashland herself because she is determined to preserve her legacy. She uses her emotional past with him as leverage to elicit details he never wanted to share. One thing is certain: when Victoria gets home, Ashland isn't acting alone, and the person supporting him is well versed in the Newman enterprise. Another round of family strife is sparked by her announcement. Victor struggles with whether to trust his daughter or shield her from Ashland's manipulations, as Nick stands by Victoria. Just when they most need togetherness, the stress causes rifts. The 2-week cliffhanger. A Newman trap springs shut. Victor and Nick implement their last strategy as the second week draws to a close. Under the guise of negotiations, they entice Ashland to a business meeting. Ashland shows up with assurance, thinking he still has the advantage. However, Victor exposes the evidence that exposes Ashland's covered operation, including witness statements, bank records, and photos. Ashland is cornered for the first time, but Ashland smirks just as triumph seems certain. The Newmans are taken aback by the appearance of his secret accomplice. Ashland's icy, triumphant smirk, Nick moving forward defensively, and Victor's stunned reaction are all shown as the screen fades.